Welcome to Strength for Single Moms podcast. Here we aim to grow spiritually from faith to faith, strength to strength, and glory to glory, to be fruitful and good stewards of all that God has given us so that we can best care for each other.
Welcome to Strength for Single Moms podcast. My name is Gina, and I'm here today with my friend Michelle. Today, we are going to talk about a number of things, but most specifically, we're really going to be talking about friendship and community and vulnerability and transparency. So those are all kind of big things, don't you think?
Yeah.
But they all go together. And I wanted to start off with a verse. I have several verses today. But the first one is Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 10. It says, 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. And I was thinking about that today, and I was just thinking about how sometimes I don't think we value the importance of friendships. Because our friends are always there, maybe
Right.
for some of us. And, women especially are by nature more relational than men. Like they seek out friendships and seek out relationships. But to have a friend who will pick you up when you fall and to care for that relationship is so important, and to recognize its beauty and to not
Right.
take it for granted, I feel like is so important.
Because we have a responsibility to it too. It's what's best for us.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we are reluctant to have those relationships because of all the hurt we've gone through.
Yeah.
But then we're not helping ourselves.
Right.
I know, it's hard when we start shutting down
Yeah.
and we've been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so important, you're right, to keep those and to look for them and search for them and keep them
To keep them
in a
close.
really important spot in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character."
How easy is that?
Uh-huh.
I think that when we talked earlier is, bad company. We all know that we have those friends that we do need to kind of keep on a back burner.
Sure.
Not walk away from them because, eventually we want them to see how we are and how our walk is going
Yes.
to maybe help their salvation. But one of the things that one of our mutual friends, Lynn, told me at one time, she was speaking and said, when you pray, ask God to remove all of the people in your life that are not going to help you grow or care about you the way you need, or are distractions.
Right.
Or they're distractions that are specifically pulling you away from what God wants you to do.
Right.
And if you sincerely pray for this and ask God to do that, it will happen. And
Sure.
she even said, watch out, because people will all of a sudden just kind of start dropping out of your life
Right.
because they're not good for you.
Right.
I think that verse really kind of says that. You need to be careful who you put around you,
Yeah.
and who you're allowing into your circle.
Yeah.
I can't remember who spoke to us about the castle. Was that a church service? I think it was at a church service about you are your castle inside, and there's certain people that are you allowed to come
Entering
up
the
to.
gates.
Yeah,
And then there's
a
certain
moat.
people, the moat. Yes.
Yeah, the
Yes.
moat, and then the city, and then
Yes.
the inner palace.
The inner gates.
Yes. And usually when you get to that center, there's only one or two people
Right.
in your life
Right.
that meet that qualification.
Right.
But understanding that that's a relationship that you really need to hold with care.
Right.
And those are the ones that, are looking out for your best interest, not just theirs.
Right.
So, but removing all of the ones that are bringing you down constantly.
Right. I think it's important to take inventory of what our friendships are looking like, and are they edifying? You know, the verse that talks about iron sharpening iron.
Right.
Are we sharpening each other, or are we dulling each other? I remember several years back, a friend of mine and we had just gotten to a place in our friendship where I think both of us were going through different, really, really hard things, and it had sort of soured how we were responding to life, and we were just not effective in our relationship with one another or others even, and we almost kind of like sandpaper rubbed the wrong way and we weren't edifying one another for sure. We were pretty much just grumbling and complaining all the time about everything that was wrong with life and other people. And I think because there was so much soul work that needed to be done in both of us, our friendship just ended up being on pause for about 5 years. And I know that I hurt her in some ways, and she hurt me as well in some ways. But, you know, God removed us from being in a relationship with one another because it wasn't edifying. There was no growth happening. We were almost like reverting back to teenagers. You know, it's like you don't feel like you could do that as an adult, but you can. If you're not careful, you can revert back to those sort of teenage behaviors of gossip or complaining or competing or just not looking to please God and grow and become better. So we took about a 5-year hiatus, and God did some major soul work on us, and we came back, and we're great friends now. God has moved in her and he's moved in me. But I think that specific example kind of shows like some friendships are for seasons.
Right.
But also God can reconcile anything in his timing.
And I think we all have that too. I have a situation, and I won't say her name because she's listening to the podcast now. So, but very close, and I would consider her, you know, a sister.
Yeah.
But we went through a lot of trauma together.
Yeah.
So I think when you go through a lot of traumatic stuff together, it's almost like that's how your relationship bonds.
Sure.
And you do need that separation, and that's what happened. I didn't lose love for her.
Right.
It's just she started doing what was helping her to be healthy, and I started doing what I needed to do that was healthy for me, and we separated.
Right.
Would still drop everything to help her, you know, and do anything for her. But it was almost like when we were together, it was this depressional thing that we kind of fed off of each other.
Sure.
So it wasn't healthy for either one of us. So I think that's kind of what you were saying too. It's that you need that break. And I'm sure, you know, eventually when we're both in a healthier situation now.
Yeah.
That, you know, we could come back together. But it's almost as if that kind of played out the way God wanted it to, because we weren't feeding each other properly.
Right. And I think that it's not to say that you aren't vulnerable with one another.
Right.
You know, you don't come together and only, you know, everything's lollipops and candy canes. Right. But it's not all negative either. There's a rawness and a vulnerability that is required for true intimacy to happen in a friendship. But realizing where the trajectory of that is going. Like, I know I can sit down with you and say, I'm really struggling with this, and this. Right. And you'll listen with a kind ear and then give advice that's going to point me back to Christ, instead of going, oh yeah, that's totally terrible.
Gosh, like, you got to do this and that, and you know, we need to go shopping.
Right, spend all your money.
All your money and make the situation worse.
Yes.
I think that's, and what also is true with that too, is that having that person where I can tell them what I'm truly feeling inside, which is very difficult for me, is expressing that, and then having them understand, and sometimes not even having to say anything. Yeah. You know, like I remember, I'll use us as an example, when going through some really hard time a couple months ago in the beginning of the year, and And it was funny because later on you were like, yeah, you weren't talking to anybody. You kind of isolated yourself, but I just kept bugging you every day. And I was like, yeah, she did. She just kept calling me every day. I'm like, Gina, would you stop? Leave me alone. I just want to stay in bed. But you knew what I was going through. You knew I wasn't ready to talk to you, but yet you consistently bugged me every single day because you loved me and you were like, okay, she's going to get out of this. And I think that is really important for a friend to have. And I want to say that it's not something I've had my entire life with anyone. Right. You know, it's something this relationship is very new. And so being able to be open, I think I've shared more with you than even my family knows, you know, about me. So it's just having the ability to just kind of open up to at least one or two people and be vulnerable and be transparent, not hiding anything about yourself, not hiding your flaws or try to, you know, outdo somebody. It's just, here I am, I'm broken, and thank you for taking me and accepting me the way that I am, you know, and all of it, and saying something when it's not right. You know, that's hard for people to let them in because most of us, especially single moms, I think we've been hurt and broken so many times by either friends, exes, you know, betrayed by friends, you know, because I feel like single moms hang out with single moms and there's a lot of brokenness sometimes. So it's really hard because we're so frustrated with what's going on around us, and sometimes we don't know where to turn, that we end up taking it out on the people that we care about. You know, and so
there's often insecurities there.
Absolutely.
And it manifests in expectations you might have of one another, and I just feel like the Lord just gave me the word patient. Because I feel like there's a patience that's required in friendship. You know, Proverbs 17:17 says, a friend loves at all times. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. And like that word, that phrase, all times, stuck out to me because there are going to be times when, you know, your friend pushes you away, or they can't bring anything to the table, and you're literally just pouring into them. And sometimes that's for a season, you know, where they can't give anything back. And that's okay. I think there's a maturity in knowing which of those friends to keep, because there are some people that will take advantage of you and they always need something from you. But I think that there is a time when you see a friend that is just downcast and they literally can't operate at the level that they usually are able to, and that's when you pour in more. And
so how do you think, because I think a lot of, and I don't mean to generalize every single mom, I'm just saying that there are a lot of moms out there that are so caught up in what they're doing with their kids, trying to make ends meet, paying their bills. What is your suggestion on how do they even start trying to find someone to be that friend? Because, you know, I know that from myself, there were a lot of things that I had to change in me in order to allow someone to come into my life like that. So how do you find that? How do you find that friend?
I mean, the first thought that comes to my mind is prayer. Because, I believe that God honors the desires of our heart as they line up with His will. And His will and His desire is for us to be in relationship. We're not meant to be on an island alone. We're not meant to be independent. We're meant to be interdependent. But with the right people. And there's different types of friends that you need. There's a mentor type of friendship that you need. Like I think of Paul and Timothy. There was this sort of mentoring that happened early on, and then it turned into more like, okay, we've moved on from the mentoring and me parenting you. Now I'm going to set some goals for you. And then by the third phase of their friendship, they were equal and on level playing field, because, you know, Timothy had come up to Paul's level. And but then you have friendships like David and Jonathan. I love what it says. It says, as soon as in 1 Samuel 18, it was talking about how Saul had been speaking with David, and Jonathan saw the way that David spoke to him, and it said Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as he loved his own soul. And like, to have a friend like that loves you and is near your soul is I'm getting teary thinking about it, because I have friends. You're one of those friends that are near to my soul, and I know that my best interest is in mind for them, and vice versa, and it goes both ways. And there's this security and this trust and this safety that you have with a friend like that. Everybody needs sort of like this equal friendship where you're on, a peer friendship.
Right.
But then there's also the friendship where, you should be mentoring someone also, someone who's younger than you, that you can speak into their life and raise them up, And so I would say, pray and ask God, bring me a wise woman.
I think too, like, a lot of people underestimate the power of the Holy Spirit too.
Absolutely.
They underestimate the fact that, when we ask, God will answer, and He will provide what is best for us in our hearts. Mm-hmm. Like, He loves us so much, He wants us to have that.
Yeah.
So someone that you would least expect, that would be that person for you.
Sure.
I think God matches up those souls and intertwines them. Yeah. So the connection almost immediately. Like, this is someone that I'm going to know for the rest of my life. Right. And I think that is really important, that being able to see that and let that person in and try it. But there's also parts of too where there's going to be broken. You're going to get brokenhearted because you're going to think this person's supposed to be in your life. You like the fact that they are X, Y, and Z, and this is a person that I want, and this is a person I want to be around. But if that soul connection doesn't happen, you may get disappointed, or even if you may get hurt and then shut yourself down to like letting anybody else in. So I think that's where, we have to pray about it, trust in God and who God's putting in our lives.
And be open, I think, too, because a lot of times people say they want friendship and they want intimacy, but they're sort of prickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They repel people, or they have walls up, and women in particular, I feel like we're pretty intuitive. Like, if you got walls up, I can see you a mile away.
Right.
But I was going to read this from C.S. Lewis. It's such a great quote. He says, "To love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything, and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully round with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket or coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. To love is to be vulnerable."
That's so true.
It's powerful. And
because you do lock yourself away, especially when you're hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you've been betrayed.
Yeah.
We've had women that, we talked about, like, their best friends did X, Y, and Z to them, or, and it's, you look at them and go, well, I get it. I get why you're hurt, and I get why you're broken, but you can't turn that off. Yeah. You can't just decide you're not going to let anyone in, because it's a very lonely and dull and depressing place.
Right.
When it's dull, lonely, and depressing, that's where evil kind of takes over and really vamps it up. Right. And makes it worse, and then you end up becoming bitter towards everyone.
Oh, of course.
So
isolation is not a pretty place.
No, it's not. No.
I have another quote here that's really beautiful. It says, "Friendship is unnecessary, like philosophy, like art. It has no survival value. Rather, it is one of those things which give value to survival."
Right?
And I thought that's so beautiful, because art makes sense of life. It speaks things that the heart feels that can't be translated in words. And I feel like friendships do that thing if it's the right friendship. And, as moms, we need those right things to make sense of life when we're raising kids, because they're the voices that we hear in our head that help us to make decisions that are good, or that rub off on us in hopefully a good way in our character. And I think that friendship it's about hopefully refining our character, but also holding us accountable.
That is huge for me, having those people in my life to hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Because that's where you're going to get your honest truth. I have a friend, Julie, and it's so funny because before she hits me with a truth bomb, she'll stop and go, well, do you really want to hear what my answer is? Yeah. And I'm like, ugh. And then I know to hold on because she's going to drop something heavy on me. And she does. Yeah. And it's like, well, you need to do this, this and that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it hurts. It hurts to hear her say it, not because she's saying it in a hurtful way. It hurts because it's the truth.
Right. Because she loves you.
And she loves me, and she's bringing it to my attention for me to correct it or to refine that area of my life. Mm-hmm. And I am so grateful because, she's our third. Yeah, so she has that way, and we really need to find that person. I think in the relationships that I've had with you and with Julie, I really had to take a look at too as myself and my own actions, right. Because 5 years ago, even 5-8 years ago when I started meeting you guys and kind of interacting, I wasn't a good friend material. I wasn't that person that somebody would want to be friends with because I really was afraid to let people in. Right. So it was something that I really had to look at myself and say, okay, well, you need to change this about you and you really need to care on what happens. And it didn't come naturally for me. So I would put notes in my phone. Then I would set timers okay, Gina's doing this. You need to call her and ask her how it went because my heart was there to ask, but time kind of gets moving and you lose it and you don't remember.
Well, I think also you're an introvert, so we naturally are not the pursuers in relationships.
We're not.
I have a friend that has actually had to call me out on that before. I love her to death. Her name's Renee, and we've been friends for probably 15 years, but she's an extrovert. And I remember a couple of times she's called me out and been like, look, I know you love me, but I don't always feel it because you literally drop off the face of the earth and I haven't seen you and I feel like I'm the only one reaching out. And I was like,
that hurts me hearing you say that too because it's true.
So bad. And I'm like, I know that is so me. It's not that I don't care about my friends. I love them.
Right.
But I need to let them know. And that was my first response was like, well, she should know that I have 4 kids and that I have an autoimmune condition and I'm busy. And then the Lord was like, she has been there for you.
And she's telling you truth.
You love her the way she needs to be loved. And she needs quality time, and you need to make quality time for it. So it's something that I really had to work on, and I'm sure I screw up still. But, she took the risk out of love for me to say, look, this hurts me because I love you because I want a relationship with you, rather than forget her. Okay, enough. That's a friend to hang on to. Somebody who's willing to risk saying truth to you, knowing you might not receive it well, but hoping you will because they love you that much.
And I think that is just huge. We have to have those people, and we have to be willing to change kind of the ruts that we've gotten into. Yeah. We may be the kind of person that, I know that, there's some of the moms that say, I constantly am watching her kids and I'm constantly doing this and I try to need one break and ask for half an hour and they won't they won't reciprocate. I just need help. Being that person that it doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice all of your time because family is important too, but just refining yourself and being a person that someone wants to be friends with, I think is just really the basis of it. Being that person, and we're not going to do it right every time. We're going to have to be reminded sometimes that but that was really difficult for me to do, is to let people in. It's still difficult. I have my close little circle, and it's really hard for me to let others into my space. But it's something that God wants us to do.
Right.
It talks about grouping and family and friends in the Bible and worshiping together and worshiping. It doesn't say sit in your home, go in your living room and start singing praise. Every time God talks about that in the Word, it's with people.
Right.
Like-minded, that'll build each other.
Right. And utilize all the gifts.
Yes.
Because we're all different. So
absolutely. You
your
get more
gifting
done.
might be, a prophetic word of wisdom, or, someone else might have the gift of encouragement.
And I think too, like when you find those people that know you so well, they're able to point out gifts to you that you didn't even realize were there. And that's been happening to me, is like really finding those gifts that I have, and they've all been from other people saying, that's a gift, and you really need to pray about it and start making a stewarding that. Basically is that was something that God gave you really need to steward that. And it's coming out of my shell to do that, and it's hard. So finding that groups and finding those people being vulnerable is really important.
I agree. I think most people probably attend a church where they have groups and things like that, and that can be a great way to find friendships, to link up with a small group. But more than anything, I would just say pray and ask God to bring the right people into your life. One of the things that I had prayed for a couple years ago was for someone to mentor me who was older than me, and her name's Karen, and she's busy because she has like 70 kids. But anytime I get like 5 minutes alone with her, just to say, could you just do what you do, like talk to Jesus in your head?
I do too.
I
think we have the same mentor.
We do.
She's amazing.
Yes, she is. And I'm like, can you just be you and let God work through you? And she does. And
she always drops a word that is like incredible.
And 5 minutes, and then I'm like, okay, I'm filled up for like 5 years.
We're actually going to have Karen on one of our podcasts coming up.
So excited. She's
an intense woman. She's a single mom with like 7 kids. Raised them, homeschooled them all.
And they're all in ministry.
They're all in ministry. They all help at the church. It's crazy. She's an incredibly knowledgeable, powerful, anointed woman. And it is true. 5 minutes with her. And if you ask, God will show you those people. It's when I first met Karen, she saw me at church just by chance. And then I was waiting for Adrian to get out of a class that he was in, and I went to the mall to eat lunch. And she was there with her whole family. I didn't have a choice but to sit down and eat with them, because she was like, nope, come in. And I just went, oh, okay, Miss Introvert, like not friendly, sat in the middle of her huge family table and had the most incredible meal of my life. I'll never forget that day where I met all of the kids. And that was the day that God, and I had been praying, God, can you put somebody in my life? And there she was, out of the blue, with all her children in the mall eating, lunch. So God does that. Julie, our other friend, Julie, I didn't meet her at church. I met her on the soccer field with my son and her son. Our boys became friends before we even knew each other. And it was just a really cool. So God, don't underestimate who and how he's going to put these people in your life.
Don't have an expectation of what
of what you're looking for.
Just be expectant that he'll do it.
Because it's going to be people that are totally different than you. And you have to trust that he's going to do it, because he will, and pray hard for it every day. Like, be sincere. I need these people. Remove the ones that don't belong in my life and that are hurting me, and put the ones in my life that are going to help me grow and help me to be a better person and feed me. Basically, I call it feeding, but just feed me. And it's really, really important.
I think that's perfect. It's wonderful. Well, if you are a mama out there who is praying for a friend, we're praying with you.
Absolutely.
We're believing God with you, that God will bring the right people in your lives. And we just pray that you would receive who he brings into your life, and allow him to illuminate the places in your life that he wants to do cleaning, and the places he wants to fill.
Yes.
Have a great day, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.